everyone, and welcome to my graphic novels for beginners recommendation video. So for the last couple of weeks I've been mainlining graphic novels because Graphics-a-thon happened, which meant that I was doing a challenge to read 28 graphic novels in 28 days, things like this, and I suddenly realised that I have not done any sort of graphic novel recommendation video, which is weird considering how often I talk about graphic novels. I have a whole blog dedicated to helping people get into Marvel Comics, but I haven't really done anything on here. So what I thought I'd do today is give you a bit of a recommendations list. How this is going to work is that I'm going to start with stuff outside of the Marvel universe, because I do understand that a lot of people aren't into that, things like this, and obviously Marvel Comics is a whole can of worms which has got multiple continuities, multiple universes, multiple rewrites, all the rest of it. It can be very, very confusing. So what instead I'm going to do is go for stuff outside of the Marvel universe that you can just dive straight into without any backstory, without needing to read like 1001 comics or worry about continuity or anything like that. And then I do have like 3 graphic novels I also want to mention that are Marvel Comics that may be good places to start. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with a new favourite, or at least actually most of these are new favourites actually, and that is The Banks by Roxane Gay. This is a contemporary one-shot, which means it is one story. You just read the one volume and you're done essentially, which is really useful if you don't have that much time, or you're not sure about graphic novels, or you just want sort of like a taste as to how graphic novels works, anything like that. And this one is a contemporary about a family who do heists from rich people, and this one is following the Banks family and what happens when their youngest, who is completely against all of the heisting and everything else, has got a real job in the real world, things like this, ends up coming back to them with the idea for a heist after she is slighted at work. This is such a fun graphic novel. I loved like the family dynamics. I also really enjoyed as well the like flashbacks to the grandparents when they were young and when they were doing heists, things like this. I loved all of the planning elements of it. It reminded me a lot of Ocean's 8, so if you are a fan of Ocean's 8, this is a really good one to go for, and it's just generally a really, really good time. And also Roxane Gay is quite a famous comic book author, so you've got a lot of other things from her to read from if you enjoy her writing style. I will say that this is my favourite one of hers I've read. I've read a couple of her others and they haven't been entirely for me, but this one 100% worked. But this one is such a good time. It's so cinematic, so well done. It made me want an entire huge series of this, whether in comics, TV or film. I didn't care. I don't have anything like that, and it's annoying me because I would love more, but this is such a good one if you're looking for a quick in and out sort of graphic novel to get you started. The Banks is definitely for you. I've also got to mention Once and Future. I have only read the first volume of this so far, but I am so excited to read the rest of the series. This is sort of like a King Arthur retelling kind of thing, where you are focusing on this family who have sort of been for generations keeping the world, or at least England, safe from various different like supernatural things, and what happens when a grandmother who has raised her grandson completely away from all of this calls him in to help to stop King Arthur from being resurrected, because if King Arthur is resurrected, it's all going to go wrong. I really, really enjoyed this one as well. The family dynamics are top tier in this one as well. I loved the grandmother in this one because she's just completely and utterly done with everybody. She shoots a lot of people because she gets annoyed by them. I really liked turning the King Arthur myth on its head as well. So instead of going King Arthur's back, everything's going to be okay, it's actually King Arthur is back and this is not a good thing. So I really like that as well. I will say it's slightly confusing in terms of like how all of these characters are like named in terms of like the Knights of the Round Table, things like this. I found that slightly confusing, but I'm hoping that's going to be cleared up in further volumes. But this was a start of a really good series. I'd say that as long as you know like the basics of the King Arthur retelling, so essentially if you've watched BBC's Merlin, you'll be fine. This needs no other like backstory. You don't need to have read anything else beforehand, anything like this. You can just dive straight into it. It's its own world and it's absolutely fantastic. Next one I need to mention is one of my all-time favourites, and that is I Hate Fairyland by Skottie Young. Now, I Hate Fairyland is all about a 6-year-old girl who gets sucked into fairyland and then is stuck there for the next 30 years. She doesn't age and she can't get out, and she is essentially done with the situation. All she wants is out of this place. She can't get out, but she will do anything she can to get out, which means generally killing to try and get her way out, because she's essentially Deadpool. That's the only way I could describe it. It's, if you are a fan of Deadpool, like the movies, this is a comic for you, because I describe our main character Gert as being like a 6-year-old girl version of Deadpool, and she isn't afraid to essentially go to extreme lengths to get out. She also swears a lot, but it's very creative swearing, so she's saying mother fluffer and things like this throughout it. I love the creative swearing of it. The art style is also really, really cartoony, things like this. I wouldn't say it's for anybody who doesn't like blood and gore, because there's a lot of like cartoon blood and gore. It's very cartoony, but at the same time you do see like broken bones, blood and everything else, and you do also see things like trolls with their hearts ripped out, zombies, killing zombies, things like this. It is very, very over the top, very, very cartoony, very, very ridiculous, but if you are a fan of things like Deadpool, and I'd say also maybe Gunpowder Milkshake as well, it's sort of Gunpowder Milkshakey as well, I'd say. If you're into that kind of thing, definitely check out I Hate Fairyland. It's one of my favourites to ever read. It's coming back soon actually. It did round off, but it's had a few years out now. Skottie Young is coming back with it. He is not specifically drawing it this time, he's just writing it, and he's got other artists in, but it's absolutely incredible. I love this. I love Skottie Young's work in general. If you enjoy Deadpool, like I said, I Hate Fairyland is for you. Also, if you like I Hate Fairyland and Deadpool, read Rat Queens, because Rat Queens is what I describe as what happens if Deadpool and Gert are sort of combined and then split apart into 4 separate women, and they're in a fantasy land and they're mercenaries like Deadpool, and they end up going around trying to save the country from various different magical threats, and quite a lot of the time screwing it up further, and stuff like this. I love like the dynamics of the team in this one. I love seeing them all like working together, and how they sort of, they love each other, but they're not afraid to absolutely tear each other apart if needs be. It's very much like, I love you, but I'm not afraid to hit you at the same time. I love that. I love how accepting they are of each other throughout everything. There are a lot of plot twists in here about the various characters. You also get a lot of their family dynamics with their biological families as well, and what they're all running from, because all of them are running from something. I also love how unashamedly laddish they are in their characters, because they are very much like, not rough and tumble, but, well, they are rough and tumble, but they're very much like, they don't care for like conventional femininity. That's not to say that they do not conform to conventional femininity when they want to, but they are very much like, they are here to beat things up, have sex, take drugs, and also get drunk. That's essentially what they're here for. And also they're here for money as well. I'm not gonna lie, they're also here for money. But I love how like over the top they are. Again, there's a lot of creative swearing in this one. There is a lot of blood. There's a lot of things like this as well. So if you are not okay with that, definitely don't read this. But if you enjoyed I Hate Fairyland and you enjoyed Deadpool, Rat Queens is an amazing series. It's got a bit of a what if scenario in there as well at one point, which I really, really loved. It's masterfully done. It's so good. It's absolutely amazing. I literally marathoned the first 5 volumes over 5 days and just loved every single second of it. And now I'm putting off the final 3 because I really don't want it to end, because it is literally finished after volume 8 and I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that. I don't want this to end because it's so good. But it is really, really good if you are into that sort of like bloody violence kind of thing, but you also want female empowerment, things like this. I am actually filming this on International Women's Day, I should say, so that's also why I'm raving about this so much. But genuinely, it is so good. It is one of my all-time favourites. I absolutely love it. I'm also going to say Fables here as well. Now this one is a bit of an investment because it's like 20 volumes long, or something ridiculous. It is a huge series, and there are also spin-offs as well, so it's very, very large. But again, it's another one that you can just dive straight into, because this is the story of essentially Once Upon a Time for adults, as I always say, but it's essentially about all the different fairy tale characters who have been chucked out of their various fairy worlds and have been stuck for the last 200 years in New York, because a evil character called the Adversary has cursed their lands, and they've all been chucked out, and more fairy lands are being taken over, and they're also being chucked out. And these characters know exactly who they are, things like this. They have created a gated community in New York. They've also got the farm, which is in upstate New York, for the various talking animals of the world, and they've been living in secret for the last 200 years. And it's all about the different characters and them trying to get back at the Adversary and trying to stop the Adversary. You've got like different relationship dynamics and things like this. And what I also love about this is that it's not the conventional fairy tale characters, in the sense that they are the fairy tale characters we know and love, like Snow White, Rose Red, the Big Bad Wolf. You've also got like Prince Charming, but Prince Charming is the same guy for each and every princess who married Prince Charming, and it's the worst because they've all divorced him. They all hate his guts. He is a scheming, conniving, manipulative arsehole of a human being, which I really, really loved. You also get a storyline which is like a romance between Snow White and Big B Wolf, who is the big bad wolf. You see like Beauty and the Beast. You've also got who else have you got? Obviously you've got all the animals as well, who are all a part of this. You've got Thumbelina as well. There's hundreds of them. I've literally forgotten all of them. You also get mentions of like Jack and the Beanstalk, Boy Blue, things like this, and it's so interesting to see all of these characters in a more sort of adult setting, and it's like so interesting to see how they're trying to fight back against the Adversary, how they deal with being in what they call Fable Town, which is their community, how they deal with like making sure other people don't find out about their town and the nature of them, because they do live in the real world, the like who the Adversary is in the first place, things like this. It is so interesting and so much fun to read. It is so good. I will say this was also, as a quick warning, written in 2006, so there's a few more problematic elements that in 2006 weren't seen as problematic, so please be warned about that. And there's also a lot of talk of war. I should also mention there is a lot of talk of war in this, so if you are triggered by any of that, please do be careful reading this. But apart from that, this is such a solid series. I'm up to volume 8 at the moment. I need to buy more. I've run out of the ones I own so far, but I really, really love it. I love seeing the twists and turns. It's absolutely genius. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I would recommend it to anyone. If you're a fan of Once Upon a Time, but you want a more adult version, this is for you, because it is exactly like that in terms of all of these characters, the Adversary, things like this. It's really, really interesting, really, really good fun. Definitely check it out. We also have The Old Guard. Now, this is only 3 volumes now. I think a third one's now been released as well. There's at least 2. I think there may be 3 now. Anyway, but this is a series about immortal mercenaries. Again, there's blood, there's adult conversations, adult topics, things like this, so please be warned going into it. But this one is about immortal mercenaries. They don't know why they're immortal or anything. They've just been popping up throughout time. They've become a team together because they all are immortal. They can't really interact with anybody else, things like this, and how they work together and what happens when they're betrayed. This is so much fun. You may have also heard of this one because there is a Netflix adaptation into a film, and the film is fantastic. I will highly recommend the movie. That movie literally adapts this comic word for word, as in full conversations are literally taken out of it. And also the director didn't shy away from the LGBTQI+ relationship between Nikki and Joe. They also, she also included the full conversation or speech that Nikki and Joe have about how they love each other, and how teasing them that they're boyfriends is not an insult or anything like this. They're the light of each other's lives, things like this. It is absolutely brilliant, and just the movie is fantastic as well, but the comic is also amazing. And also we're now getting a second movie as well, so you're sort of buying into a franchise here in comic form and film form, which is fantastic. It is so good. Like, I love this. If you love watching Charlize Theron kick ass, then the film's for you. And if you just want to see how the film was made, or like the original storyline or anything like this, or just to read along with the film because it's so accurate, the comic is definitely a must as well. I've also got Monstress. Now, I know a lot of people talk about Monstress. I personally am not the biggest fan of this one, I will say, because I think this would actually work better as a novel, personally, because the world is so complex that I feel like it would work better as a novel, like a fully illustrated novel. That's just me personally. I know a lot of people love this though, so I'm including it on the list. This one is about like demons, I think it's Egyptian mythology, and a whole lot of other things. I will also say this one has a lot of triggers in it, so please be warned about this one going into it. But the art style is the most incredible thing. It is beautiful. I have never seen like better artwork ever. It is stunning on every single level. The storyline is also really good. The world is really complex. Just for me personally, I would have preferred maybe a bit more explanation and it turning into a novel essentially, but I know a lot of people love this, which is why I'm going to be recommending it. It is very good. It just personally was not for me, but again, if you are into complex worlds, things like this, definitely go and give Monstress a go, because a lot of people would say it is worth it. I'm also going to mention Bitch Planet. Now this one is like 2, maybe 3 volumes long as well, and again it's a sci-fi set in the future where we're in a heavily patriarchal society, in the sense that women are really subjugated. Men feel that like that they can just do whatever they want with women essentially. There's like advertisements in world for diet pills for tweens. You've got this huge pressure to be subservient. There's like pills as well that mean that like the advertisers never argue with him again, or like pretend you like this sport so he'll like you more kind of thing, and like, oh yeah, she doesn't deserve him, you like, you can like usurp their relationship and things like this. And if you do not like conform to any of this, you are sent to Bitch Planet, which is a planet obviously that is a prison colony, and it's about the women in there. And I really like this one. It is a real good look at like the patriarchy, and sort of saying up yours to the patriarchy, and women trying to fight back. It's really interesting. It made me very angry in places, because you can see where this has been based on in our real lives, which is, you know, fun. It is like an extreme version, but it is very much like that. But it is a very interesting read. If you like women fighting back and saying up yours to the patriarchy, Bitch Planet is definitely one to read. And then I have a couple of Marvel comics, because I can't go without mentioning some Marvel comics. The first one is 1602. I love this one. It's by Neil Gaiman. It was the first ever Marvel comic I ever read in my life, and I just fell in love head over heels essentially from that moment. Now this is a one-shot story. There are 2 spin-offs that you can read if you want to, but this is mainly a like one-shot story where the characters of the Marvel Universe are in the year 1602 and the world is ending. They think they've always been in the world like the year 1602, or they've grown up and are now in 1602. They think they've always been in that time period essentially, and it's so fun. If you have watched the Avengers movies and you have at least a basic idea of the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, though I would say also watch the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, because they are cheesy and the continuity is off really badly with the X-Men, but they're a good time. I always recommend them anyway. But anyway, yeah, so as long as you have like the basic idea of who Charles and Eric are, and the basic idea of like Scott, Jean, Bobby and Beast, you should be fine in terms of the X-Men and the fact that people hate them and things like that. You should be fine with the Fantastic Four, as long as you know that like they're a team. Reed and Sue are married, Johnny and Sue are brother and sister, and Ben is their best friend, and the fact that their main villain is Dr. Doom, who is the Latvian king, and he has a serious thing for robots. You should be fine. Essentially, it's really easy to follow along. It's really easy. There are quite a lot of Easter eggs in this one, but at the same time, it's just Easter eggs. If you don't like, get them. If you miss them, then you'll be fine. It's absolutely fine. I just really enjoyed them because I'm a nerd who notices these things. There are a couple of hidden characters as well, which are really fun. You should know who they are as soon as they turn up, as long as you've watched the films. But I really love this one. I love, like, the world of it. I loved how things were slightly changed. So Charles Xavier's name is actually Harvey A. Xavier. You've also got Peter Parker does not have his powers, but he keeps on nearly being bitten by a spider. Stephen Strange is running around as well, which is always fun. Actually, the one character you will need to know about is Clea. She is a demon from the Dark Dimension and also Stephen's wife. She is in this. She's not a main character, but she is in this, so that's slightly confusing if you don't know who Clea is, but essentially she's Stephen's wife. She's a demon. That's all you really need to know on that front. You don't need to know anything about history really either. Things like this, it's so much fun. I absolutely adored reading this. I've read it like 5 times now. I still love it. I am hoping Marvel adapt it as like an animated thing or something for like the What If series or something on Disney Plus, because it's so good. I love the character interactions and how they all weaved together, things like this. It is genius. If you want a good starting point for Marvel Comics, I'd say Marvel 1602 is a fantastic place to start. Or if you want something more specialised, I would also mention The Rise of the Black Panther. Now, this is a collection of like T'Challa's earliest stories, but they have been shortened down into 20-page issues, and it's sort of like his biggest original stories, but the artwork is updated and it's massively shortened. So if you want like a quick start, quick fire guide to just start you in the world of Wakanda, T'Challa, everything else, this is a really good place to start. I found this really useful. There is a Winter Soldier storyline in here and a whole load of others as well. There's like 5 of T'Challa's biggest storylines. It really helps like set up the world of Wakanda and like how Wakanda works in the comics, things like this. Is definitely a good one to go for if you are interested in Black Panther comics, but you don't want to go all the way back to the beginning, like 60 years ago or anything like this. It does a really good job of it. I would highly recommend. And the final thing I need to mention is Fearless. Now, Fearless is an anthology collection. It's a whole load of mini stories about various different Marvel women, written by women and also illustrated by women. So if you are looking for a place to start and you don't know much about any of the characters, you can read this. You can go, oh, they sound interesting, I want to read more about them. You can go and look them up. Or if you want to follow a certain author or anything like this, you can also do that. Same with like artists as well. This is a really good place to start for that. It's got a whole load of short stories in there. You've got one about Night Nurse, who is essentially Christine Palmer, Doctor Strange's ex-girlfriend. It's like she's got a short story in there, and that's very interesting. Night Nurse is essentially the person who patches up the superheroes and sasses them. So she's really fun. You've also got a team up of Captain Marvel, Sue Storm, and Storm, aka Roro from the X-Men. They are all at a camp which encourages girls to get into STEM. That's very fun as well. That one's actually written by Shauna Maguire, so if you are a Shauna Maguire fan, definitely check out that one. You've got a whole lot of other stories in there as well. You've actually also got one of my favourites, which is a short story, which is a team up between X-23 and Gabby, who is her younger clone sister, because just assume that with the X-Men, if there is a Wolverine type character who's wandering around with another Wolverine type character, think they're either a multiversal variant or a clone. Only way I can describe it, but I highly recommend that one. I always love reading about X-23 and Gabby, aka Honey Badger. I find them very fun. There's a whole load of other ones in there as well. So if you are just looking for more female characters to read about, female authors to read, or also female artists to check out, Fearless is definitely a good one to go for. And that is the end of my comic recommendations video. If this helped, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below as well if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a woman emoji down below to let me know that you were here to celebrate International Women's Day as I'm filming this. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which has got a whole load more like reading guides and places to start with certain characters, things like this. So if you are interested in reading more Marvel Comics, I'll leave a link to that down below. I'll also leave a link as well down below to my Redbubble and Etsy store, which sells bookish merch and bookish bullet journal stuff if you are interested in that. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!